Coming up on Energy TV Investment Edition, we talk about the soaring price of gold, an outlook on where commodities are heading, and the beauty of investing in art.
Welcome to Energy TV Investment Edition. I'm Helena DeVries. In recent months, the price of gold has skyrocketed thanks to the threat of a major U.S. slowdown, a weak U.S. dollar, soaring oil prices, and geopolitical instability. Now, all of these factors have combined to boost gold prices to new highs in recent weeks, even as stock markets have taken a beating. We check in with one market analyst to see what's in store for the precious metal.
It has been a roller coaster ride for the market to date. As the stock markets fluctuate daily, investing decisions can become conundrums. However, market analyst Jim Letourneau says having gold in your portfolio is a valued asset, as in recent weeks it has soared above $910 an ounce, a historic high.
A lot of the concerns in the U.S. market have been the currency. The value of the U.S. dollar keeps dropping and dropping. And as that happens, the value of real precious metals actually increases in terms of the paper currency. But they could just keep printing and printing more paper money. And at the end of the day, you know, the price of gold could be $3,000 an ounce, but it could be a big chunk of that could be currency devaluation.
When investors get nervous, they tend to look for a safe haven. Letourneau says precious metals, in particularly gold, can become a tangible investment.
Most of us are probably optimists at heart, and we're not looking for global calamity and economic disaster. But if there was one, it'd be nice to have something tangible and solid, and precious metals can provide that.
Letourneau says owning gold can deliver some peace of mind. However, he stresses the difference between owning the physical metal as opposed to investing in a gold producer.
There's a difference between, like, you know, real precious metals like a gold coin versus buying money in a major gold producer versus buying money in a 50-cent or 10-cent junior producer. And there's a whole spectrum, and sometimes the junior little companies, you'll hear about your neighbor making, you know, 10 or 20 times gains because they bought this stock at 10 cents, but they're not going to tell you about 4 or 5 other ones that maybe didn't do that.
While it may be gold's day today, how will it possibly fare in the future market climate?
In a bull market, nobody thinks about the bear market that will follow, and in any market, you know, we have ups and downs, and the cycle for gold is probably, you know, it's a 20-year plus kind of cycle. So we're going into more and more enthusiasm, more and more people are getting interested in gold, but at some point the price will peak and will probably pull back fairly quickly.
So when is the right time to sell gold and make a profit? Letourneau says that depends on the specific investor's time frame and psychology. Short-term minded investors may sell now when it's high in case of correction or pushback, and long-term investors may choose to buy in.
Sometimes we find about an investment in a good theme right near the top of the market, and then all the people that knew about it before us sell their shares and their gold and their silver, whatever they have, they sell it to the latecomers. So it's hard to be early.
Chad Carrier, Energy TV.
Now, speaking of investing in gold producers, one of the world's largest mining companies is Goldcorp. It's a Canadian-based company with its corporate office in Vancouver. In 2006, Goldcorp acquired over $10 billion worth of assets, positioning the company to be the senior gold producer in the world. Here's what company president and CEO Kevin McArthur has to say.
We're here in downtown Vancouver, in the heart of both the mining and financial district, to meet with Goldcorp President and CEO Kevin McArthur.
I've been in this job since December of last year, having had my company taken over by Goldcorp. And I was prior to that, I was CEO of that company since 1998. We took that company called Glamis Gold from $1 to $56 last year, and we're taken over by Goldcorp. We're trying to replicate that record within Goldcorp. We've got a great crew here, doing a good job meeting our targets. Our goal is to produce 2.2 to 2.3 million ounces of gold this year at a cash cost of $150 per ounce, which is a very striking low cost when you look at the costs that are happening in this industry, the impacts. You look at gold price going to over $800 per ounce now. This is a very good story for us. We've got 50% growth over the next 5 years, and we maintain the highest margins within the senior space in the gold mining industry. And so, like I said, we're hitting our targets, and building mines and producing value is really a great story.
Goldcorp's production is forecast to increase by 50% over the next 5 years. Now, coming up after the break, an outlook on commodities. Is the bull market sustainable? Find out when we return. Welcome back to Energy TV Investment Edition. Gold's record surge has also prompted buyers to snap up other metals and commodities, but recently commodity prices have fluctuated as investors take profits and watch moves made by the U.S. Federal Reserve closely. We check in with Jim Letourneau to see what commodities you may want to keep your eye on in this market.
Commodities have seen a spike in investment interest as of late. Among some of the notable areas in the ever-changing market are precious metals, says insider Jim Letourneau.
An area that I like are like sort of obscure, like trivial metals, but are really essential. So things like cobalt and tungsten and rare earth metals. You know, there's things like indium that are used in flat screen panel TVs and things, and all sorts of. You know, some of the biggest gains we'll see are probably in metals that people have never heard of.
According to Letourneau, agriculture is also another area seeing an increased interest as stockpiles are drawing down. Utilizing due diligence will often pay off when getting involved in commodity investing.
Things like tungsten, you know, it's used in drill bits, it's also used in armor, you know, we don't need a lot of it, but it's pretty critical. So a lot of these smaller commodities and metals are kind of like vitamins for steel. You only have to throw in a little bit, but without them, your strategic advantages are really diminished.
The reason commodities are so popular, it's a simple issue of supply and demand, and cycles are long, says Letourneau.
If someone's watching the markets closely, they can make a choice and say, well, I've made some money on these stocks, I'm going to sell them. If they go higher, you know, could be worse. If they drop, you can always buy them back. Another thing people can do is, you know, you don't have to sell everything. You can sell a portion, maybe half of your interest, or, you know, sell things and, you know, if you see a nice profit, sell some, but not all.
With commodities currently in a long-term bull market, Jim Letourneau says, at the end of the day, no one will care about your money as much as you do.
For investors to maybe take control of their finances or a portion of their finances is probably not a bad thing to do. Because, you know, things do shift in the marketplace.
As for those market shifts, Letourneau says to keep a global view on your commodity investments in times of American slowdown.
At the end of the day, the fundamentals behind the commodities bull market have not changed. The U.S. economy is important to the world, but I keep saying the United States is not the center of the world. And the demand for these commodities at even a very low percentage increase in India and China is making way more demand for commodities than what the United States has.
Overall, Letourneau feels the commodity portion of the market is relatively small but holds potential for gain, and Canada is in good standing due to its resources.
Keep in mind that there's a long-term commodities bull market that should make it pretty forgiving to be investing in that sector, but there'll be bull markets in other sectors as well. And sometimes the overall entire market pushes everything down, and sometimes you can just find a sweet spot in the market and do really well.
Chad Carrier, Energy TV.
Strong metal prices are now helping to turn low-grade deposits into viable projects. The CEO of Terrane Metals has big plans on bringing 2 BC projects into production. Here's a look.
CEO and President of Terrane Metals, Robert Pease, is all smiles when talking about 2 projects that are presently underway.
Terrane Metals, we have 2 projects in the company. One is called Mount Milligan. It's a copper and gold deposit. It's located just north of Prince George in British Columbia. It's a very interesting project. When we see it going into production, would produce about 100 million pounds of copper a year, as well as about 275,000 ounces of gold per year. So it's quite a large mine in terms of the production and the metal produced, and a very important project to the company, and really our first priority. However, though, we do have another project, which is called Berg, and it's located just south of Smithers in British Columbia as well. It's not quite as advanced as Mount Milligan, but it's a copper and molybdenum project.
Currently, the Mount Milligan project is in the feasibility stage, and once that's complete, they'll be looking at raising the financing and getting the necessary permits in place to start building the mine. And according to Pease, strong metal prices are helping to turn low-grade deposits like this into viable projects.
Certainly at metal prices of today, the economics could be very, very strong. But we really need to be able to see a long-term, reasonably strong metal price to make the project work economically.
And Pease suggests the demand for copper is only going to increase, thanks in part to its multitude of uses and the rapid growth of Asian markets.
Copper is such a fundamental commodity to life as we know it in the world. You don't do really very much without copper if you stop and think about it. Copper is used, electric wire. There's electric wire almost in everything. And so you don't build any kind of an appliance. You don't build any kind of infrastructure in a region. You don't build any kind of a house, a school, a hospital without using copper.
But that's not all that's working in Terrane's favor. In addition to a commodity whose demand will remain strong for years to come, both projects being developed have the competitive advantage of pre-existing infrastructure in the area.
Yes, that's really a very big advantage, if you will, of the Mount Milligan project, and really why we're so excited about it here at Terrane, is that it's located in a region that already is supported by lots of infrastructure. We have roads to the site already. We have towns nearby. We have a power line nearby. We have railway nearby. So we have all of the pieces, if you will, of the infrastructure that we need to develop the mine are right nearby already.
And according to Pease, that's why Terrane Metals is doing business in BC.
We really believe that there's a really competitive advantage here in British Columbia, and the 2 projects we have, it all speaks again that they're close to the infrastructure. They're very developable projects in the sense that a lot of the infrastructure challenges that we see other projects in other parts of the world have are not common to our projects.
Terrane Metals is awaiting a feasibility study to be released in the first quarter of 2008. Now, coming up after the break, what you need to know about investing in art and appreciating it in the process. Stay with us. Welcome back to Energy TV Investment Edition. The typical investment strategy entails the buy low, sell high mantra. We take a look into an alternative investment opportunity that doesn't always follow the traditional rules and in fact can be quite enjoyable to hang on to. Here's more.
Art. For some, it can be a decorative piece. For others, it can be an expressive outlet. And for some, it can be an investment. But before you and your wallet rush out to your local art gallery, there are some things you should know going in, says gallery founder Christopher Talbot.
You can't just walk into a gallery or walk into some sort of art resource and be reliant on what the salesman is telling you. Oh, it's a fabulous piece of art and you're going to make a killing on it. Well, it generally doesn't work that way. You've got to be diligent enough to spend a little bit of time and just learn about what you're buying.
Taking the time to educate yourself is key, Talbot says. And in today's information-rich world, it's not hard, especially with proper artist marketing and distribution, allowing access to world talent never seen before. Art Mode Gallery owner Yvan Filion agrees that taking the time to learn about your investments is important. He recommends doing your research and then approaching a gallery looking for an original piece.
The galleries will filter for quality, for how serious the artist is. Another thing to look out is to buy from a gallery that will always take back a piece on exchange.
Getting in early on original limited works are something to look for.
Let's say, I'll just use a round number, let's say it's $1,000 for the Giclée in a big size, beautiful piece. We'll probably sell out around $1,500. But now it's sold out. So what's it worth now? It's worth what everybody's willing to pay for it.
Art, like other commodities, is based on supply and demand. Prices start out and rise with interest. Both gallery owners attest to it being a long-term investment, as it's something to be enjoyed. However, when you are ready to sell that investment piece, there are a few options you can take.
One, galleries. Galleries that will represent that artist are often interested in repurchasing pieces. Auction houses, and there are several in Canada.
Even alternatives such as the internet and eBay can be considered. As for new art mediums, Filion believes investing in tried and true paintings and sculptures are still the way to go for now.
If you're looking at more multimedia type of elements, there's no track record. So if there's no track record, it's a much riskier investment.
Talbot agrees art is rooted in the basics. However, he sees art moving towards the mainstream, and education and awareness will serve as an investor's best offense.
A lot of people are moving away from the traditional paper print under glass. They're moving away from, won't mention any names, but artists that have that are prolific, that have what I call the unlimited limited edition, editions of thousands.
When investing in art, Talbot says look at the credentials of the artist, truly learn about and appreciate their work, ultimately making an informed decision. Chad Carrier, Energy TV.
Both gallery owners agree that art is a unique investment and that it's an original, tangible piece that's main feature is to be enjoyed. Now, how about enjoying something rare and valuable that's primarily found on the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains? It's called Ammonite, and it's an organic gemstone made of fossilized shells. In 1981, it was given official gem status, and in 2004, it was designated the official gemstone of Alberta.
I love this place because it's just one big graveyard.
And an old one at that. But to companies mining for Ammolite, this little slice of Alberta is full of life. What's Ammolite, you ask? It's a gem that's so distinctly Albertan, maybe it should replace the wild rose on the license plate.
It's very rare and very colorful, and you can't find it anywhere but one small location in southern Alberta.
At least you're not likely to find specimens nearly so beautiful anywhere else. Ammolite, which comes from a creature called the Ammonite, became Alberta's official gem in 2004 and makes for some pretty snappy jewelry. Hard to believe its popularity has been almost as underground as the material itself.
The market is always a big challenge. I think that's always the biggest challenge, and recovery, of course. And it's very limited out here, so it's hard to actually come by an area that actually has ammonite close enough to the surface to recover it in a mining sense, or a hand mining sense even, for that matter.
Pretty much all gems give off color, but what's unique about Ammolite compared to most gems is that iridescence comes from light bouncing off and not absorbing into the rock. That's one thing. On a good day, you'll get reds and greens like you see here. On a really good day, you'll find more valuable and rare blues and purples. That's just some of the technical stuff. But what's really neat is that this all comes from fossils of the Cretaceous period. That little creatures that lived in this Alberta field back when it was actually the floor of a subtropical sea.
There was a lot of ammonite in the sea, actually, at that point, and they say there was mosasaur, which they were one of the main predators of the ammonites. Outside of that, there was an array of clams, oysters, and all kinds of bivalves. There was cuttlefish, lobster, crayfish.
Some of those neighbors weren't so friendly, as evidenced here by apparent bite marks, perhaps from a mosasaur looking for some prehistoric escargot. Flash forward to today, as the very manual process of taking Ammolite from this to this to this is hard enough, but first you have to get it to the surface.
But what we're looking at along the exposed areas has been oxidized because of such slow erosion. So it turns the valuable gem into a not such a valuable stone until you get deeper into the earth and actually start hitting some fresh layers that have been untouched by water and air and whatnot.
But Ammolite isn't completely untouched. Despite its appeal growing at a pace as snail-like as the ammonite from which it comes, indigenous cultures have known and revered Ammolite for centuries.
And they believe that it has spiritual properties, and it was a lucky stone for them. And I think Asian cultures, feng shui has also embraced this stone because of its beautiful colors as well.
And those in the Ammolite business hope everyone, especially Canadians, embrace this mystical gem that is virtually endemic to our country.
As soon as you see it and feel it, it sort of just takes you. I think that's one of the important things that most people will never know until they actually touch and see a piece. It has magic.
Ammolite is also the official gemstone of the city of Lethbridge. That's this episode of Energy TV Investment Edition. Tune into Energy TV Industry Edition Sundays at noon on Global in Alberta, or catch us online at energytv.com. And if you've got a question about investing or energy, drop us an email. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.